Okay, we're going to show you what's in a box. You open the box. This is an Easton Haven dropper post. Take the Easton post out of the box. Under the cardboard insert is everything you need to install the post. In this bag you'll find cable housing. Be careful it doesn't go shooting across the room. And inside this bag you'll find a few things. One is the universal remote lever. 2, the cable length adjusting noodle. And 3, the quick connect. This is everything you need here to install the post on your bicycle. Okay, let's just do a quick review of the tools you'll need to install the dropper post on your bicycle. It's very simple. First is a 4mm hex key. It's for tightening your seat collar and getting the post to the right height. Next is a 3mm Allen or hex key, and it's used for tightening the nut that tightens your lever to your handlebar. The next is the 2mm, which is used to tighten the grub screws on the quick connect on either side to tighten it onto your cable. And the last thing you'll need is cable cutters, hopefully sharp ones, and you use those to trim your housing to length as required. So the first step is to have the cable routed through your frame as per your recommendations of your frame manufacturer. All frames are a little bit different, so please look for some tips hopefully on their websites on how to do this. So a couple things to note closely is the part of the housing that comes up through the seat tube should have no ferrule on it, and the housing closest to the handlebar, you do need a ferrule on it. So make sure you have that correctly lined out. Next thing we want to do is decide how long a cable housing we do need. Again, large frames, small frames, everything's a little bit different. So one good rule of thumb for me that I found, the actual proper way to do it, is to take your housing with the ferrule end and hold it next to your brake. Turn your bars all the way to the right, or even X'd up, full X up, half X up, whatever you want to do, and pull it tight. And at this point you should have 30 to 50 or even 50 to 100 millimeters of housing extending out the top. If you've done that, you should be okay for when your handlebars go around the other way when you crash. So at this point, we're ready to install the quick connect on the seat post end. So here's our connector as it comes from the box. We need to remove this housing. It's just for illustration of how to set this up. You do not need it. So you hold the T-nut and you turn out the housing, and then you discard that piece. The next thing you want to do is take this nut and slide it over the housing that's coming out of your seat post. Next step is to make sure the T-nut is going to thread on top of the plastic housing. It's going to cut its own threads and it's going to screw onto the housing. So you place it over top, you put downward pressure, and you twist by holding this tightly and twisting, twisting, twisting until it stops. At this point, you have your connector now sliding freely, your T-nut is attached to the housing, and your nut is there. Alright, so now we're going to install our universal lever. This is the race face turbine universal lever, and the Easton lever looks very similar. First thing you're going to do is you're going to take your cable and you're going to feed the cable through the hole in the lever, and it's going to go through and it's going to come out here, the back side. The next step is to take the noodle that you have, and you'll notice the noodle has one end with just this tube and the other end has the adjuster, the tension adjuster. You're going to feed it through the tube end and you're going to push it through, and it's going to come out the ferrule side, and you're going to pull that out. And the next step is to take the cable end and put it down the ferrule into the cable. And at this point you're going to feed all the cable through till it comes out on the seat post side. And if you've done your routing correctly, it should be smooth and no kinks or things, okay? So here we are on the seat post side. We have our nut, our housing, and our T-nut is threaded onto the housing. Now you can see that the cable has just come through the T-nut, and what it needs to do is continue through the connector past the grub screws up here. So as you push it through, you just make sure that it guides up the center and comes out the top, like this, okay? And at this point, you're just gonna pull the housing till it's all the way tight. Again, you're gonna go down, and you're just gonna make sure that your cable is in your, housing is in your adjuster, and your noodle is in your clamp, and your cable is set. At this point, I have tension, it's tight, and this can move freely up and down. Okay, so we're at halfway. What we're gonna do is this grub screw and this grub screw need to be tightened down together from both sides evenly. They both have to go inside the cylinder. So you take your 2mm wrench and you use your fingers to touch the cable. You come to the other side, use your fingers to touch it to the cable. And at that point, you can start to tighten evenly, a quarter turn or a half turn on both sides to make sure that it's tight. But very importantly, you need to check that the grub screws are both inside the cylinder. They can't be proud. You can use your fingernail to check it and make sure you can't feel the grub screw. And again, once you've done that, you double check again that you're halfway in the slot with the top of the T-nut. The next thing we're going to do is trim this cable to length. Okay, so here we are going to trim the end of the cable. It's very important that as little cable protrudes past the top of the connector as possible. We like to say 2mm maximum. The best thing to do is to take your sharp cable cutters, apply it as close to as you can, and snip it off. And as you can see, you leave about 2mm. If you want to be really fussy about that, you can grind it down somehow, but 2mm is fine, and just leave it like that. Okay, so now we're ready to put the post on the bicycle. This is an Easton Haven dropper post. It's a 440 by 6-inch drop, or 150mm drop, and in this case it's a 30.9 quill for our giant here. Okay, this is pretty simple. What you're going to do is you're going to hold the connector with the one hand fixed and make sure it's, again, you're pulling up on the connector so everything's tight. You're going to take the seat post, you're going to place this in the back of the seat post, and you're just going to turn the seat post with your fingers. Turn, 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 turn. And you're going to feel a little stop. Finger tight, no tools, nothing, okay? Then the next step is you're going to take this nut and you're going to thread it into the bottom and you're going to turn it with your fingers. You're going to hold the seat post stationary and you're going to turn the nut in. Again, you're going to get to a point where it's just going to stop. Don't use a wrench, it'll get seized and you won't be happy. At this point, our seat post is installed. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our one hand up to the front of the bike and we're going to pull the cable out of the frame and we're going to feed this down into the frame slowly. And you're going to set this wherever you want. You'll probably get it wrong the first time. You're going to have to adjust it again. But let's, for all intents and purposes, say this is a good spot for this particular rider. Good. Okay, next part is going to be to put the clamp on the handlebar now. So we fed the cable out through our frame and now it should reach our handlebar position quite easily. So you're going to undo the 3mm with 3mm wrench. You're going to open it up and you're going to put it around your handlebar. Again, most people like it just between the brake and their grip. So you're going to tighten it up, and again, positioning front to back is a personal preference thing, so you're going to have to get that in a second. So once that's on the bar, what you're going to see is, oh, I kind of want it there maybe, and I'm going to lie it up here. First thing you want to check now is that you have some play in your lever. If it's tight, it's going to give you some problems. That setup's not correctly. You need a little bit of wiggle. I have a little bit of wiggle here. The way to get more wiggle is to turn in your barrel connector, and you'll see there's a lot of play. That's probably too much. And so you want to take it out so that there's still just a little bit of wiggle. If there's no wiggle, that's going to be a problem. At that point, you can push excess cable down your frame, take some zip ties, and tidy up your cable routing. So here we have our installed post, our lever's on our bar, our tension is correct because we have a little bit of wiggle in our lever, and I'm just going to show you how this works. So again, on the left-handed position, depress the thumb, you should be able to lower the seat post, let go of the thumb, the seat post stays down. If you want to raise the seat post, you push the button again, and it goes to the top.